Alberta is going to leave. If we elect a liberal government, there is a extreme danger that Alberta will hold a referendum and potentially leave Canada. A commenter sent me a whole list of things about this, and we need to talk about it right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to Bakes on Things. Before we get started, make sure you do like, subscribe, and share because this is a doozy of an episode and we need to make sure everyone understands it from coast to coast, especially in the East Coast where I live. See, Alberta has always been kind of let down in elections. Alberta has always been ignored. And not just Alberta, we're talking BC, we're talking Manitoba, Saskatchewan, anything west of Ontario tends to get disrespected, especially by the Liberal Party of Canada. And when they're in government, it's even worse. So today, we're going to talk about what's going to happen potentially if Mark Carney wins because a lot of liberal voters, especially ones in the GTA, this message is for you. The ones that have put so many liberal signs on your lawns, you don't know what you're doing to the West. And you might not know what you're doing to this entire country. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Alberta might actually leave Canada. And nobody in Ottawa seems to care. Nobody in this liberal government seems to care. They consistently get in the way of Alberta, and it's going to end up costing us huge, especially if the Liberals win in this next election. Sounds dramatic? Maybe, but it's definitely not baseless because right now, across Alberta, a separation movement is building again. And this one is even stronger. This one is not just angry Facebook posts or bumper stickers on their trucks, but it's actual serious talk. It's real polling happening and a growing segment of Albertans who are ready to go. And by go, I mean leave Canada if the Liberals win this election. And they are not joking. And let me tell you, that should terrify every single viewer of this show. That should terrify every single Canadian. If Alberta leaves Canada this time, they could actually pull it off. And if they do, it would be an economic and national disaster for the rest of Canada. One we could not, as a nation, come back from, ever. This is not just talk, folks. This is real stuff. Liberals who are listening, this is real. A new poll by Angus Reid, and you know how I feel about polls, but let's talk about this one because we have to put the information out there whether it's real or not. But a new poll by Angus Reid just came out. Take it for what it's worth. 30% of Albertans now say they support separation if Mark Carney's Liberals win. I would actually say it's an even higher amount. If the polls are wrong, they're wrong the other way. And that's not a fringe. That's nearly 1 in 3 people in Canada's energy capital ready to walk, ready to separate out of the country. Did we not learn from history here? And guess what? That number continues to rise the more that Mark Carney proves he's not a good prime minister candidate. People in Alberta feel ignored. They have for decades. They're overtaxed. They're demonized for their energy industry, especially from this leader and this liberal government. They're used for their wealth, and then they're tossed aside when it comes time to listen. And I'm not an Albertan. I live in Ontario. But we've seen this movie before, folks, and it wasn't a very good movie. Remember Quebec in the 1990s? Do we remember Quebec and how close that was? Hello. I mean, especially for boomers and for seniors and everybody else. I mean, even me, I remember this. I was 15 when it happened. In 1995, Quebec held a referendum on sovereignty. And do you know how close we came to actually losing an entire province? The no side won at 50.58%. That is a small, minuscule margin by voting standards of less than 55,000 Quebecers who voted. The country held its breath. Unity was on the line, and we nearly lost it. But here's an even more terrifying part. And this one, you might want to turn up the volume for. Alberta isn't Quebec. And that's what makes this worse. And the reason, not to insult Quebecers, because it's nothing to do with them as people, the reason why, because Alberta has what Quebec did not. Alberta has resources. Alberta has pipelines. Alberta has infrastructure. Alberta has global demand. And they have the ability to function, nay, even thrive, are we listening? As an independent energy superpower on their own, without us. On their own. Alberta could actually survive on its own. There were always questions in 1995 whether Quebec could actually do that, whether they could pull that off or just become part of the United States. Hey, 51st state. We didn't want that then. We don't want that now, especially with Alberta, because this isn't just hypothetical, guys. Alberta is the engine room of Canada's energy economy. They run us. They run us. The suits in the ivory towers on Bay Street in Toronto don't run us. Alberta does. Let's look at these numbers. So in January 2025 alone, that's this year, Alberta produced 26.7 million cubic meters of crude oil. 26.7 million cubic meters of crude oil. That's the 16th straight month of year over year production growth, according to Stats Canada. They also, by the way, control all of the pipelines, including the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which just tripled its capacity after the expansion of that pipeline opened in 2024. Full control. So imagine this. Alberta separates. You think you're worried about Donald Trump's tariffs? Alberta separates, folks. The tariffs they're going to put on the energy for us is going to kill us as a country. Let's imagine they're putting tariffs on flowing east on the oil. They charge us for natural gas. They build trade deals with the U.S. directly themselves and leave us completely out of it. You think we have bad trade now because of what Donald Trump is doing? Imagine if Alberta separates. Suddenly, the rest of Canada would be cut off from its own energy because it's not its own anymore. It'd be a separate nation's energy. We'd be begging Alberta to import what we used to get from next door neighbors. This isn't a bluff anymore, Liberals. They actually could do it. This threat is real. And the worst thing is that the Trudeau-Carney Liberal agenda, both in the last 10 years and now under Mark Carney, is driving them there. Mark Carney made fun of Danielle Smith the other day. He constantly irks her. And now if he becomes prime minister, what's going to happen? Why are Albertans even talking about this, you ask? Because for the last decade, they've watched Ottawa choke out their economy. They're currently watching Ottawa berate their premier. Liberal voters are berating Danielle Smith. They've had carbon taxes that punish energy workers. They have to deal with Bill C-69, which, by the way, Mark Carney still will not repeal if he wins. That is a pipeline killing, job killing disaster unless you leave and then you can do your own thing. They're affected by the foreign funded anti-oil campaigns. Just transition plans that ignore the reality of energy security are another problem. And now, Mark Carney, who is a globalist banker with a resume, arguable whether he did a good job at anything that appears on there, and not a backbone, wants to finish the job? Does he want to get rid of them? Does he want them to separate? Give me a break. Give me a break. Liberals, come on. It's time after 10 years to make this change. Because you want to know what's driving this movement? It's disrespect. And then your leader goes up at a rally and makes fun of Danielle Smith. You think that disrespect helped anything? You think that's going to make Albertans respect us even more? Albertans don't feel heard. And when that happens, people start looking for the exits. When you don't feel heard at a job, do you want to stay? No, you find your way out. Let's game this out right now, you and me, while watching this. Put your comments in. I want to hear your thoughts. Let's say Alberta really does hold a referendum. Let's say this actually happens. And this time they vote yes. Here's what Canada loses. And you're not going to like this. Canada loses billions in federal transfers. The oil and gas that heat your homes. The pipeline infrastructure that feeds our entire economy, despite what the Liberals will tell you. Global export leverage. We won't have any. We'll be needing to import. And a major piece of our national identity would be gone. Look at this. Look at those mountains. Not part of you anymore, Canada, if they leave. What a piece of national identity gone. And don't kid yourself, Alberta could impose tariffs just like Donald Trump, tolls even on the roads, and restrictions on goods flowing into and out of their own new borders. We would be importing oil from our former province. How does that look on the world stage? And we've been importing it at their price and receive nothing in return. It would be economic suicide for Canada. This is a way more important issue than the mainstream media is making this out to be. It is scary and it is real. And we're going to all be shocked by it if the Liberals win. National unity is on the line again. This isn't just about Alberta. This divisive Liberal government, this divisive Liberal party, much of whom are all in the same position still under Mark Carney, are driving Alberta and many other Canadians away. It's about what happens when a country stops listening to itself. This is where Canada sits right now. We nearly lost Quebec once. Now we're on the verge of losing Alberta. And while the government pretends everything is fine, we know it's not. They'll tell you our economy's better than the US. Mark Carney said that just yesterday. It's complete baloney. Second worst GDP growth in the whole developed world. So here's the spoiler. Everything's not okay. Mark Carney has spent his whole career working on global boards and foreign banks and WEF and pushing his net zero agenda. He's never been elected by a single Canadian before. But he's now prime minister and running for another 4 years? He thinks he can manage Alberta like a spreadsheet? How's that working out for you so far in your little 2 weeks of your prime minister role? Oh, it's not. Alberta is not a spreadsheet. It's a province full of hardworking people who are done with this, who are done being ignored. And if we don't wake up to that reality, we could wake up in a country without Alberta. So this election might decide whether Canada even stays whole or not. And I'm not talking about becoming the 51st state, because Alberta is on the line. This isn't just about policy. It's about preserving the country. So if you're on the fence as a voter, this is something you really need to think about. You can dislike Pierre Poilievre's speeches. You can dislike the rallies. But the policy makes sense, and Alberta believes in the policy. The more Ottawa pushes its top-down globalist agenda, in particular the Liberals, the more Western alienation grows stronger. And the scary part? This time, the West has the money, they have the resources, and they have the power to go it alone. So if you're in Ontario, if you're in BC, if you're in the Maritimes, anywhere outside of Alberta, you better pay attention. because this here is real. Because this election isn't just about who forms government. It's not about that anymore. It might be about whether we stay a country at all. I know this is a bit of a longer episode than we usually do, but thanks for sticking with me. I need you to do this. I need you to share, and I need you to comment, and I need you to like. Not to push or promote this channel, but to promote the message. Because Alberta leaving Canada would be a disaster. But it wouldn't be their fault. It would be ours for not listening, for not voting the right way, for not giving them a chance after not giving them a chance the last 10 years. We are one country, but only if we act like it. We must respect our provinces and their ability to do their own business. We must support our workers in those provinces, and we must elect leaders who fight for all Canadians, not just the GTA, not just the ones who agree with them. We need a leader who will fight for everyone in Canada. And Pierre Poilievre has been putting his entire family relationship on the line for us. Because if we don't, Alberta might just walk out. And this time, they won't be coming back. Thanks for watching.